You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again. Today, we have another show lined up for y'all today. Today, we're going to talk to our special guest. She is not just an author. She's doing big things. First and foremost, we're talking to Mary Jones. She is a British writer, and also we're going to learn about her life and a little bit about her screenwriting experience as well. First and foremost, Mary, I just want to say thanks for taking time. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great, thank you.
So today, we're going to be talking about you being an author and screenwriter, but also how to create a page-turning book. So first and foremost, kind of illustrate to the audience a little bit about yourself. What inspired you to become an author?
It actually began when I was very young as a girl. I always loved reading books, and also I started just writing my stories probably when I was about 7 or 8 years old. And my teacher at the time, as I got older, she really encouraged me to keep writing. So that began my sort of love of writing, really. I did put it aside for a few years when I had young children and was working full time. But in the last few years, I decided this was a really brilliant time to actually pursue my dreams and go for it as a writer, and very fortunate enough to get published as well.
You're also an award-winning author as well. Kind of tell the audience a little bit about that experience, the awards you've been able to obtain.
Yes. So my book, Those We Trust, was put forward for 4 awards, which have included Reader's Favourite Gold winner, American Fest, but I was a finalist for, and the New York Big Book Award I was also a winner for. I'm also just in the running for 2 more awards, actually. So they've just gone through to I'm just going through to the final stage. So I'm waiting to hear on those as well. But it's just an incredible feeling to receive these awards, because it just really encouraged me to keep going as a writer, for the fact that, you know, to be able to be an award winner is a real honour. So I'm very, very happy and very grateful for the opportunities that has given me as well.
And that kind of ties in today's topic, creating a page-turning book. Kind of break down the process for the audience as far as the book that you just recently, moments ago, mentioned, Those We Trust. How did you plan writing in stages? You know, how did you plan everything out as far as just starting from the idea to holding the book in your hand?
Yes, of course. So for me, quite often a story will begin with visualizing a character and they're speaking to somebody else. So for me, my main character is Sophia, who's in a very low point at the start of the story. She's just gone through a broken marriage. She's a very insecure person, very low self-esteem. And for me, how I do it is I build up from there. So I will create scenarios in my head that I would want to bring into the story, and characters that could react or relate to my main character. And then I tend to plot the story out very briefly, but I'm very much about a writer that just then sits in front of the computer and I basically write. And quite often my story will go in a different direction than perhaps I originally plotted. But that's the kind of style that I do, because I don't like to be too rigid with my writing. Sometimes you might find that a character takes on a bigger life than you originally thought they would, or you create suddenly come up with another twist in the story that you didn't originally think about. So for me, it's a very gradual, but you keep building on the story that you originally had, but be open to changing the endings or changing the storyline in the middle, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely makes sense. In the
um,
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, what I like to do as well, I like a fast pace. I do fast paced work scenes. So that's how I hopefully they get the page turner effect, in that I'm always leaving at each chapter on a cliffhanger so that the reader wants to carry on and read to the next chapter. So it's a very fast paced books that I write as a romantic thrillers.
And the reviews, they kind of echo the same thing, that it has a lot of suspense. And I mean, that's an easy way to keep someone's time in the book and reading it until they read the last page. When you create those, if you will, tense moments within the stories and the chapters, was that something that was kind of easy for you naturally to do, or did that take a little bit of time to develop?
I would say a little bit of both. So it's my natural style of writing, but I've had to hone the skill. So you don't want it too much. You need to get the balance just right. So between each chapter. So I think I've certainly learning as I go, but it seemed just to come naturally to me that this is the style of writing that I do. I think as a writer, you also read a lot. Well, you should read a lot, really, because it helps you as a writer. And the books that attracted me were those kind of styles of writing as well. So that's kind of, yeah, it just feels natural to me to write in that style.
And when you are in the process of getting the book finalized, from editing, proofing, what is the most, I can say, what's the most testing part where you have to be patient and not rush it and make sure you have the most polished book to be published?
The editing, I don't mind as much. I tend to edit it, get somebody I trust to read it. They will give me feedback, edit again, and then get it as good as I can before I send it to my publishers. Once it goes to my publishers, it then goes through another 3 rounds of editing. So if I've missed anything, I know they're going to pick it up for me. For me, the hardest part sometimes is actually the middle part of the story. So you can start off with your story really enthusiastic. You've got lots of ideas how you want to open it, perhaps how you want it to end. Quite often it's that middle part that you really have to work hard at to keep that suspense, to keep the reader interested in reading your story. So that for me probably is the hardest part of the writing, actually.
And those listening, we're talking to our guest today, Marie Jones. And when you look at how other authors become massively successful with their book, and say someone listening right now and they want to be in that situation where their book can reach, a massive audience, based on your own personal experience, what would you suggest a author pay attention to versus worrying so much about the awards and the recognition?
I would say, it's still something I'm learning myself. So, because I'm still quite a new writer, so I'm still building my readership myself. But I would say you most certainly need to have a social media presence and be engaging with your readers or engaging with other authors. You can certainly, the biggest thing I've learned alongside with my publisher is the PR that goes into it, which I think as a writer you don't really think about when you first write your book, but excuse me, but you truly have to be continually thinking of exciting ways to do PR and social media for your book to get it out there into the wider audience. And you sort of have to learn very fast how to do that. Things like this obviously is brilliant that we can come along and talk on podcasts, and you get yourself into magazines and interviews with book bloggers. They're all brilliant. They will all really help you as an author as well if you're trying to get your book known to other people, to other readers as well. I'm also just learning to break into, still learning this, but TikTok as well, as to how TikTok can help me as an author, because you could be very successful on TikTok as well. So
you can listen to Refocus Radio, talking to our guest, Marie Jones. You can go over to her website, mariejonesbritishwriter.com. Again, that's mariejonesbritishwriter.com. Earlier in the show, you mentioned about how reading helps you to write and write better. Now, someone listen to this and they're like, man, I would love to get started in being a published author one day. Reading, you mentioned, is important. Are there some other tips that you can share as far as a newbie aspiring to be an author, what they should focus on with their foundation before they just say, you know what, I'm going to publish my first book? That comes to mind.
I think most importantly, you need to know what style of writing and genre you want to do. There is so much out there now that you can write what style you want to do. I would say you need to find your author's voice, your writing style. Don't be afraid to write things that perhaps will never see the light of day. It's more about helping you to feel more confident as a writer. And also it's that commitment and determination. It's very, very easy as a writer to sit down in front of the laptop and then get yourself distracted by many things around you, and you never actually write that book. I generally have to sit down and say, this is my writing time. I'm going to sit here and write, because if you don't do that, if you don't regularly write, you won't improve as a writer. So for me, the more I write, the easier it comes to me and the more natural it feels. Whereas when you first start out, you might write something to think, maybe that's not very good, and maybe not carry on, when actually you're never going to be a perfect writer from the start. But the more you write, the more that you commit to doing it, the better your writing will become.
Man, that's tying to what our topic is today, and that's, creating a page-turning book. Like you said, it is that commitment to whatever you decide to do in life, not just limited to books, but whatever you decide to do. I feel whatever you committed to, that's where you'll find the results, whether it's good or bad. So when you look at the success that you've obtained already, I mean, is this your first book, by the way?
Yes, it's my first book. My second one is coming out in May, actually.
So you already out the gate. Not everyone can say on their first published book that they received any award, let alone you received more than one. So when you look at your recent success, how does that kind of push you forward for your future books, and how you will approach your marketing and prep before the mass the readers are able to read it?
Yeah, so certainly I think from having the awards and the experience of that, I would heartily recommend it to other authors. I think there's something in that affirmation to receive awards, because you have people who enjoy reading it, which is the most amazing thing. To actually have people write reviews, it means so much to us as authors to have reviews. In fact, I would say probably they're even more important to me than the awards, to know that somebody really enjoyed your book. But I think it gives you more credit and esteem within the writing world if you have received awards, that you're I think it just confirms that you're doing the right thing as well, if that makes sense. I think when you put out your first debut novel, you're not really sure how it's going to be taken or accepted. And to have judges then read your book and award you a gold award, I think for me that just has helped build my confidence as a writer. And that's just something that I want to continue to pursue over the next few years. And I think because I came later to, so I'm in my 40s, and this came later to me. And I just want to encourage anybody that you're never too old to pursue your dreams. And I'm a big believer in just going for it. You've got nothing to lose. So if anyone's just there thinking, oh, I've left it too late, I would say, no, you've never left it too late to start pursuing whether you're a writer or whatever it might be that you want to do in life.
And we kind of touched on the process of you writing. But another question I will have for our listeners is, do you find yourself kind of organizing topics and areas as far as how the chapter is going to flow beforehand, or do you just continuously write and then reorganize?
I have a little bit of organize. So before I start a chapter, I have an idea of what I want to cover, basically, or what I want to write in that chapter. But I do find I do keep quite an open mind. So sometimes I'll start writing a chapter and actually I think, actually I'm going to take it this way first of all, or there's something that needs to happen before I can move on to the part that I was going to move on to. So I think it's a kind of free flow thing. It's kind of a very strange, organized, but you've got to let in that free flow as well, and just go with the feel and the vibe of the chapter. If it's going off into a direction, but that works, and that's what you go with, really. So it's a little bit of both, really.
I mean, it feels like this is a class in session. Do you teach people and help people, consult with people if they do have questions on, how to write a book? Do you kind of give them the basics and show them the process?
Absolutely, yeah. I have. I would be more than happy to ever sort of help a fellow writer, especially if they're just starting out. I have done some training sessions with students as well who are doing it as part of their college, just how to get into creative writing, which I really enjoyed doing. So I think it's so important to be really open to helping others. I'd hate to think that you wouldn't help another writer because of like competition or something. I think the world is big enough for all of us. So yes, I'm very much would love helping other writers or students looking to become writers.
We're talking to Marie Jones here on Refocus Radio. Go to her website, mariejonesbritishwriter.com. And when you have the opportunity to see how you've been able to impact readers, we kind of touched on it, but we can touch on it again, different way. Do you ever consider the things that your reviews, what has been said, to kind of birth another idea for a future book?
I think, because interestingly, originally when I wrote Those We Trust, I thought it was going to be a standalone book. And with some early readers, I felt like they were like, we didn't feel like the story of Marcus and Sophia was finished. So through kind of reviews or with some of my early readers, I decided to continue the story of them. And so this next 101 book is a carried on. So I think it's really important to listen to your readers and to see what they're suggesting. A lot of them are sort of read a lot of books. They are impressive how much they can read. So I think that was, for me, that's what I've learned from that you can change what you were going to do. And I'm really pleased that I'm carrying on the story to make it into a sort of mini series now. And I think as well, just to read reviews that they liked the fast pace of it, or as we were talking about, page turner, it confirms that this is the right style for me. So yeah, reviews are amazing. I as long as you're obviously getting positive ones, you do have to be prepared that you may get a negative review. I've fortunately not had that yet, but you do need to be prepared for that as well. But everything is all feedback is a gift, they say. So
and also your book, Those We Trust, we touched on you being a screenwriter because you actually were in part of a competition, and Can you tell the audience a little bit about that competition that you was part of in 2022?
Yes. So I do have somebody working on my behalf at the moment to see, because I have written Those We Trust as a TV series. So he's just approaching people for me, but it also became a semi-finalist in a competition at the end of last year, which was brilliant. It's also received a double recommend from Stage 32, which is a very big organisation that help a lot of screenwriters. So fingers crossed, it becomes something actually. So it's a very hard market to break into. Obviously, I'm a new screenwriter, so I'm not very well known in the Hollywood market. But yes, I do have somebody working on behalf for me at the moment. So you never know, in the future, you might see it as a TV series.
Listen, I'm Refocus Radio talking to Marie Jones. You go to her website, mariejonesbritishwriter.com. And last question, if books have been around for a long, long time, why do you think it's very important that authors continue to write and use their creative process to give readers something to read?
I think it's important because you can transport your reader into any time, any place, any situation. And I think it helps their imagination, their kind of ability to escape to something else for a while. I mean, I think reading as well just helps you to relax in very busy lives that we lead. And I think there's something, once you're caught up in a story, you should, hopefully you care about those characters, you care about what happens to them. And I think for that short time that you're reading that book, you are part of their world. And I think that's why we love books, why we will always love books and stories, because it just transports us to somewhere else. And perhaps, you can read a story where you would hope to do that yourself one day, or it inspires you in another way to go traveling. Like if the story, like my story is set in Scotland for many, perhaps it will be like, I want to go visit the Highlands because it sounds so beautiful in a story. So I would hope, and I believe that it will always have stories and books out there, just for that escapism and having an opportunity to delve into another world.
You've been listening to Refocus Radio talking to Marie Jones. You can go to her website. It's real easy to remember. It's mariejonesbritishwriter.com. And also get her book, because Those We Trust, like she said, it could very well become on the big screen one day. So once again, I want to say thank you to Marie Jones taking the time in your schedule talking to us today.
Thank you so much for having me.